Hi, my name is Mary Lewis and I am a junior at Peru State College. My topic that I'm talking about today is human trafficking and the awareness and why it is a social problem for our generation and the world as a whole. Someone might ask, like, what is human trafficking exactly? And human trafficking is modern day slavery in which people profit from exploiting others through force, fraud, coercion, or deception. And it happens everywhere, even Nebraska. This definition is from the NebraskaFamilyAlliance.org, and I'm going to be talking about some things that are specifically related to Nebraska since that hits home for us. Sex trafficking is a category of human trafficking in which people are sexually exploited by means of force, fraud, or coercion. By law, sex trafficking includes commercial sexual exploitation of children, meaning that anyone under the age of 18 who is working in the sex industry is a trafficking victim. Sex trafficking can occur in residential brothels, street prostitution, escort services, usually online, strip clubs or brothels disguised as legitimate businesses, like, for example, massage parlors or spas and things like that. Victims of sex trafficking can include U.S. citizens or foreign nationals, adults, minors, men, and women. Domestic victims are usually recruited through false promises of love and support, and sometimes through kidnapping or abduction. Foreign nationals are oftentimes recruited through false promises of legitimate employment, marriage, or other opportunities. And that definition is from humanrights.org. In 2000, the United States made human trafficking a federal crime with the passage of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, TVPA. Nebraska also passed a law in 2006 that made human trafficking illegal. Although there are many limitations in the law that make it hard to enforce and prosecute traffickers, this issue matters because of the injustice it causes to those who become victims of this monstrous crime. In 2016, Nebraska substantially increased penalties for trafficking in the state. By increasing penalties, lawmakers hope to accomplish two things. One, empower law enforcement to go after the issue of human trafficking by motivating them to spend resources and pursue criminals engaged in trafficking, and two, deter traffickers from coming to Nebraska. NFA is proud to have collaborated with lawmakers on this anti-trafficking legislation. That is also from the NebraskaFamilyAlliance.org. I'm sure that if you're from Nebraska, you might have heard that in the College World Series is a huge hub for human trafficking, and because of I-80, I think it's what it's called, there is a lot of just interstate what's the right word? Moving of people for slavery. Human trafficking by the numbers in Nebraska. 47 Nebraska schoolgirls are known to be trafficked each year, but the true number is likely higher, and that's from the Governor Task Force on Human Trafficking. 40 million people are trafficked worldwide. 5 million people are currently victims of forced commercial sexual exploitation. 20 million people in the world are kept in forced labor. 15 million people are living in a forced marriage. 25% of human trafficking victims are children. 71% of human trafficking victims are female. 150 billion is the estimated annual profits made from the exploitation of trafficked persons. And that's from the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking. $90 is the average price of a slave today. By comparison, the average price of a slave in the American South in 1850 is $40,000 in today's money. So just comparing that, to buy a person for labor or sexual favors or anything like that is on average $90 in today's world. That is very disturbing. There's 499 convictions were secured against traffickers in the United States by the Department of Justice in 2017, and 7,045 convictions were secured worldwide in 2017. So think, in the United States, 499 convictions only last year. That is staggeringly low. And I think part of the problem is, when reading and researching, is that we have not been keeping our laws up to date to help combat human trafficking. States need to do their job, and the federal government needs to do their job in keeping the laws up to date and creating new legislation that helps prosecute people who are trafficking other humans. Yeah, I would think that is a no-brainer, but I guess it's not. And then, why does human trafficking exist? So human trafficking is highly profitable business driven by the demand for cheap and free labor and the demand for commercial sex. The International Labor Organization estimates the annual profit from the exploitation of all trafficked forced labor is at $31.6 billion. There are two main reasons why the market for human trafficking is expanded, and it's low criminal risk / deterrence. Traffickers perceive little risk to affect their criminal operations, largely because of the lack of strong penalties for their crimes, low chance of arrest, limited training of government agencies, and the lack of public awareness. High profits is another reason why human trafficking is expanding. High profits, humans can be sold multiple times a day, 7 days a week for several years, while drugs and weapons can only be sold once. Like any business, legal or illegal, the demand drives the supply. Human traffickers victimize vulnerable people out of their desires to profit from the demand. The number of vulnerable humans around the world and in the United States also makes it easy for traffickers to keep a fresh supply of victims for both labor and sex trafficking. So that is currently why human trafficking exists and why it's thriving. So another thing that could help people is like, how can I identify human trafficking? How can I help fight human trafficking, especially like here in our state or in the United States or wherever you go? Anyone can join in the fight against human trafficking, but here are a few ideas that some of you might want to consider. You can learn the indicators of human trafficking so you can help identify a potential trafficking victim. Human trafficking awareness training is available for individuals, businesses, first responders, law enforcement, educators, and federal employees, among like so many others. If you are in the United States and believe someone may be a victim of human trafficking, report your suspicions to law enforcement by calling 911 or the 24-hour National Human Trafficking Hotline, which I will link below in this video and I will state again after this video. You can be a conscientious and informed consumer. Discover your slavery footprint. I know that sounds like crazy, like what? My slavery footprint, but this is what that means. Ask who picked your vegetables or made your clothes, like where are you buying those from? Check out the Department of Labor's list of goods produced by child labor or forced labor. Encourage companies to take steps to investigate and prevent human trafficking in their supply chains and publish the information, including supplier or factory lists for consumer awareness. You can volunteer. You can support anti-trafficking efforts in your community, which in Nebraska we have several. You can meet with and or write to your local, state, and federal government representatives to let them know you care about combating human trafficking and ask what they are doing to address it, and that is very important. You can host an awareness-raising event to watch and discuss films about human trafficking. For example, learn how modern slavery exists today. Watch and investigate a documentary about sex trafficking. There's a really good one on Amazon. that I will also link below because I don't know the name of it, but I'll link it below in the comment section of this video. Or you can discover how human trafficking can affect global food supply chains. Also check out CNN's Freedom Project for more stories on the different forms of human trafficking around the world. You can organize a fundraiser, donate the proceeds to anti-trafficking organizations. You can encourage your local schools to partner with students and include modern slavery in their curriculum. Like, I don't know about you guys, but we didn't really talk about that in high school, and we haven't talked about it much in college. So I think that's very important because I read a quote today while finishing up my research for this video, and it's that in Nebraska, human trafficking is thriving in the shadows, and that's so scary to think about. You can also work with local religious community or congregation to help stop trafficking by supporting a victim service provider or spreading awareness of human trafficking. Lastly, I would just like to leave off with you guys. If you think you have come in contact with a victim of human trafficking, call the National Human Trafficking Resource Center at 1-888-3737-888 or visit www.polarisproject.org for more information and resources on human trafficking. The ways to help combat human trafficking is from the source is state.gov. So I tried to use .org and .gov research for my human trafficking project, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys can go learn a little bit more about human trafficking, especially in your state and around your community. All right, bye and have a happy semester.